Welcome to a walkthrough and tour of Condor, my Corsair F31 1DC foil, which is set up and optimized for single-handed sailing. A tour of my boat was requested by viewers from my previous videos and members of the F-Boat Owners Forum. This video does not contain any sponsored products and was not created to make money. If you do want to make money with sailing videos, you need to start your video with a girl in a bikini. Never ever start with a shot of your boat, just in case you wondered. We'll be splitting this tour into two parts. Video 1 will cover anything above deck, and video 2 will cover everything below deck, including some of the electronics and gear I carry, etc., etc. You can find a link to the below deck video in the description below. Also in the description there are some numbers and stats on the boat, such as sail area, etc. For those unfamiliar with Farrier and Corsair Trimarans, these boats do fold up and are trailerable as well. Let's get started with safety, which mostly is concerned with how not to fall into the water when sailing by yourself. This could easily be a 2-hour video on its own, but here we go. Jacklines. Jacklines are permanently rigged on my boat. I wear my life jacket with an elastic tether at all times. I stay clipped in at all times, even when in the cockpit. No exceptions, no excuses. My tether has a quick release, and my Lifevest has a tether release as well. Within the Lifevest, I also carry a man overboard beacon. The boat itself is stored, folded, on an air dock in the marina, which means everything, such as my foils, bowsprit, running, standing rigging, must retract and be able to support the folding of the MS. The bowsprit is tensioned using triple blocks and a tail that splits for redundancy to 2 cleats. The bowsprit also has a fixed safety line should both cleats fail. The bowsprit itself is locked in with a pin. While at the anchor locker, I use a Fortess FX11, which is a great, lunge anchor, as I call them, to minimize deflection of the bowsprits when sheeting in the Screecher. To go hard upwind, I'm using Whisker Stays, also sometimes called bowsprit shrouds, with a 2-to-1 purchase and cleats for each side. Both Spinnaker and Screecher are using beefy Dyneema soft shackles. The bowsprit itself is carbon. The Spinnaker tagline runs through a low friction ring to a clutch near the cockpit. The Halyards for Screecher and Spinnaker also run all the way back to the cockpit. For the Spinnaker, I'm using an ATN Spinnaker suck for launching and retrieving. The Spinnaker itself is stored through the forward hatch into my V-burst when I'm done with it. The Screecher is using a continuous furler, which is run all the way to the back of the cockpit, and I can reach it from within the tiller. I use continuous sheets for both Screecher and Spinnaker. Coming from a skiff background, it comes more natural to me. And generally, I sail and treat this boat just like a big skiff, by the way. The blocks for Spinnaker and Screecher use soft shackles. The sheeting point, meaning this is actually a strap holding the block for the Screecher, can be easily moved. The straps are high-load automotive axle straps, which are very affordable and easy to get on Amazon. The jib is using a tough love system with a feeder. For securing the jib on the deck when lowered on windy conditions, I simply use bungee cords with hooks, simple, effective. I don't miss a furler for the jib, even sailing by myself. Advantage of the tough love, it allows for full button jibs, and I can quickly set different size jibs, especially here in the summer where it gets pretty windy. I use a smaller jib pretty much every day. Raising and lowering is super fast, and another advantage of the tough love, your love profile is a lot nicer compared to hang-on jibs. The jib sheet takes 2 to 3 turns around a winch, and I then cleat it to cam cleats I added to the top of the cockpit benches. This allows for super fast uncleating in case of emergency right from the steering position or right from the tiller. You can see it actually in action in my video on how to almost capsize a trimaran. You can see that quick release of the jib would not be possible if it would be running through a self-tailing winch. This simple line here, which has a plastic casing, is simply here to prevent any tangles or snaps from the jib to the boom rotator handle and such. The barber hauler setup is a little unique. Rather than having a jib track that goes fore and aft, I have an adjustable floating point and a track that goes in and out. This gives great control and flexibility, especially when I need to trim the jib uniquely when flying the Screecher and the jib at the same time, which I love doing. The mast is rotating carbon. I can lock off the rotator, and I also have rotator lines going all the way into the cockpit to assist the rotation of the mast in light winds, or to counter rotate the mast when I'm taking in sail. The shrouds are synthetic, and it is a canting rig. Markers are added to the floats for quick visuals if the mast is centered. The shrouds run through a clutch and are also cleated for additional safety. A safety line prevents the shrouds from going completely slack in case of failure of the canting system. During folding and unfolding, the shrouds go slack for a moment. To help support the mast, I'm using these, I'm calling mini stays. They attach to the raising wire point, as it's called on these boats. Please note, for raising and lowering the mast, I actually do not use these. I actually change over to fixed stainless raising wires. But to just folding and unfolding, this works great, and they offer enough support. The mast itself is Southern Spars. It is not an Homohundra, which is part of Southern Spars brand now, but it is a different mast. My mast is a true Southern Spars. It has much stronger reinforced growth, allowing me to use a tight submarine track. The track is a huge safety addition. Getting a bulge rope sail up alone is maybe possible, but try getting your bulge rope square top mainsail down really, really fast in case of an emergency when you get blown sideways by yourself, and even if it's only 10 knots of wind. This is not going to happen. You will not get the sail down. So again, tight track, not so much getting up, getting the sail down in an emergency was the key deciding factor. My mainsail here, this is actually my practice mainsail, I have a carbon one as well, has a huge square top with a gaff button. In order to store the sail, the button needs to quickly be removed actually from the track. So I just added a quick release shackle to do so. Similarly with the main halyard. It just uses a snap pin for easy, fast on-off. Works great. I built my own lazy jacks. Commercially available ones are just not really a good fit for this unique boat. I can quickly unclip my lazy jacks and therefore still have the option to roller furl my mainsail. The boom is carbon. Outhaul and reefing lines run to clutches at the front underside of the boom. I generally prefer to roller reef here in San Francisco. I keep the first reef pretty much in at all times from May to September because it's so windy. And then I slap reef into the second reef if needed. Topping lift stays always on. I have two carabiners, one for store topping lift and one for sailing. This way I can never accidentally actually drop the boom. The main sheet has plenty of purchase, runs through a nice long track. I'm using these mini clutches instead of a cleat. A cleat is actually hard to undo under high loads and if the angle is off. The clutch always works from any angle. The main sheet uses a knife thick strap around the boom. be advised that using a thin Dyneema loop, like I see on some boats, can actually cause point loading and cracking, especially on a carbon boom. Go wide and distribute the load with a strap. Excess line stored in bags. This keeps the deck clean and tangle-free for safety. The only time I really ever slipped on my boat is stepping on lines. So avoid any lines laying on your deck at all times and under all costs. The high aspect ratio rudder is carbon, as well as the casing is carbon as well. For a rudder shear pin, I sometimes see people use metal pins. That'll never shear. What will happen is that you destroy your blade or the casing or everything, but your metal pierced shear pin will not shear. Use a wooden one and carry spares. I created a custom mount for my autopilot out of marine grade high density plastic. For a little extra safety, I also secured a small bungee. To temporarily store the autopilot unit, I just made a very simple bracket below the bench here. The electric outboard has been covered in a previous video, link in description below. My chart plotter, which is fed AIS data, is on a swing arm. I also have 2 repeater instruments on each side of my boat. It shows depth and speed. Heading is visible from any angle on a tactic mounted on the cabin roof. More on electronics in the below deck video. My sea foils provide about 35% additional riding momentum. So these are really foil assist. This is not a full foiling boat. I would have to spend a fortune to invest into T-foils in the back, and that is simply not something these boats are designed to do. So again, these sea foils provide 35% additional riding momentum, great foil assist. They start coming to life at 10 knots of boat speed. But they're very, very effective and very helpful when going upwind at lower speeds, actually, in their halfway down position. If you are a skiff, dinghy, or hobby cat sailor, then this particular cleat and setup will look familiar to you. Yeah, it's how a trapeze line is generally adjusted. I use it to set my foil depths, and it works perfectly perfect. The rake of my foils can be adjusted using these set screws. It's actually not possible to make an on-the-fly adjustment. It would be fun to do so, and my intention is to create such a system in the near future, so stay tuned. The boat by myself is probably physically the most demanding part. I actually use these little wooden cutouts, wooden 20-inch little sticks. I prop up both sides and keep them both, and then fold the boat up. I think that covers most parts. Please leave a comment if you would like to know more about a certain part of the boat, if I skipped something, and do check out the below deck video as well. As always, thanks for watching.